I'm Jim Collison and live from Omaha, Nebraska, and the office is in Sydney, Australia. This is Gallup's Call to Coach, recorded on September 22nd, 2015. Call to Coach is a resource for those who want to help others discover and use their strengths. We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insights, and strategies to help coaches maximize the talent of individuals, teams, and organizations around the world. If you have questions during the webcast, we do have a live chat room that's available for you. It's right below the main video window there. If you're watching this in any other place except coaching.gallup.com/live, we invite you to come over there. Actually, on that blog, we have a lot of videos available for you as well. If you are listening to the recorded version or you have questions about custom strengths coaching solutions for small, medium, or large organizations, we'd ask you to send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Or there is a contact form right there on the live page. You can just fill that out, and that will come right to us. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center, just Gallup Strengths Center, all one word, for all your coaching resources and training needs, including now, if you log in, you can get a new ebook. The StrengthsFinder 2.0 ebook is available for you on that site as well. It's free to you if you've taken StrengthsFinder before. You can also catch the video and both streaming and downloadable audio for offline listening to past shows as well. And all the links to our mobile apps to get your top 5 at your fingertips at all times available on our coaches blog, coaching.gallup.com. Claire DeCarteret is our host today. She works as a learning solutions consultant with Gallup in our Sydney office. And Claire, great to see you, and welcome to another Call to Coach.
Thank you so much, Jim. I'm really excited to be here today, and I'm very, very excited to introduce our guest for today, Richard Burton. So Richard is the CEO and talent manager of an organisation called Inner Zone, and today he's going to talk to us a bit about his journey to coaching, the really fascinating combination of business and purpose into what they do at Inner Zone. So welcome, Richard. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Claire. Hi, Jim. Yep. Hi to everyone.
So Richard go ahead. Richard, I'd love to hear from you just to kick off, to tell us a little bit about your journey to coaching, your discovery of the strength science, and really starting with your top 5.
Okay, I'll start with my top 5. Number 1 is connectedness. Number 2, ideation. Something I love to use. Number 3, empathy. Number 4, maximizer. And number 5, learner. And my journey to coaching really, I'll start with an embarrassing fact, and that is that my mum filled out my university application form. Not my proudest moment, but it really goes back to that. And I just wanted to play cricket when I was younger. So I knew I needed a plan B, and Mum had a look at all the courses that were available, and real estate was a great choice because it offered 18 separate careers. I didn't have to choose a singular career at that point in time. So well done, Mum. That started me on a journey in property investment, and after about 5 years in that career, I joined a company that was particularly good to me, gave me opportunities to lead teams, manage regions, and I ended up as a managing director of a sizable business, which was great opportunity. And then I came to a turning point after being in that role for about 5 years. And that turning point came in a discussion with my manager where he said, look, we're thinking about your career, and we're thinking that you should go over here and manage money before we consider you for even higher honours. And I said, well, I don't really want to manage money. I'll be over there, separate from teams and people, which is something I enjoy. And I don't really want higher honours. And then he asked me a question which rocked me to my core, and that was, well, what do you want? And you'd think after 17 years that was something that I'd thought about. And I realised at that moment I hadn't been purposeful about my career at all. I'd said yes to opportunities that had come my way, and it really was the start of me thinking, well, how did I even get here? What am I good at? All these questions that I hadn't really answered. So it started about 18 months of reflection and inner work for me. And I wish I had the StrengthsFinder at that time. this is about 2009. I hadn't come across the Strengths Finder at that point in time. And look, I found it hard to answer those questions myself, particularly in a busy role. And so what I did was I took a mini sabbatical. I took 4 weeks off, some long service leave to really try and work this out. And I read a lot of books and, started to make a bit of headway, but went back to work thinking, it was quite unresolved. I went back to the same job and really only lasted 2 months before I knew the best decision for everyone was to resign and take more time to really think that career through. So as I said, I didn't have the Clifton Strength Finder at that point in time, but one of the things I did was I asked the question, what gets me in the zone? What are the things, the activities that I lose myself in, that I really enjoy, that I'm effective at? And so I reviewed those times that get me in the zone. And what I realized was it's times when I'm listening, questioning people, encouraging them, motivating them, really around particularly around their career. So what I started to do was do all this inner work and write a purpose statement, which really clarified where the direction that I wanted to head. So what happened then, I was having a lot of coffees with people as I was going through that journey. And over coffee I was sharing with people, how passionate I am about helping people to reach their potential, fascinated by culture and teamwork, etc. And I just really want to help people. And so what I got back was, well, can you help me? So I started coaching people really over coffee, and the only choice for a business name was really to call it Inner Zone, because it was what gets me in the zone, but also I wanted to have a business that really focused on people and helped them find their inner zone in what they do every day. Mm-hmm. So that's my journey to coaching, and Inner Zone is really about, exactly that, helping people to find their natural talents, connect with it, do exactly what they love in a career that is meaningful, that has purpose, and that is successful. And I believe that that's an inner journey, and really finding your inner zone is the key to that. So as a business, I'm now blessed. I've got some really talented people working with me. So we work in a few areas of what we call talent management coaching, but we specialize in talent management really around career, around leadership, around culture, and around well-being. So the 3 main areas we work with people is individuals, obviously individuals going through career change, but also people who want more out of their career, better performance, preparation for leadership, that type of thing. With organisations, we help them with well-being and engagement, with culture, with coaching people, and we've also just started in schools as well to help young people to find confidence and really start their career path on the right foot, really based on what their talents are and their passions are. So that's the journey to coaching, and a bit about Inner Zone.
Yeah, brilliant. And so when you were talking through that, I was thinking about your getting in the zone and that activity you did for yourself, and how aligned that is with mining for strengths. So you came along and did our Accelerated Strengths Coach program in June here. When did you come across the Strengths Finder, and how does that augment the work that you do within a zone?
Yeah, I really came across the Strengths Finder only about 2 years ago. And what I was doing, I'd specialised in an area of coaching which we call outplacement. I'm not sure what it's called around the world, but basically it's when companies lay people off and they give them a program that helps them go to the next stage of their career. So in outplacement, it's fascinating because people, unlike I think a lot of people who are stuck in their career, they're at pre-contemplation or they're thinking about what change looks like. In outplacement, they've been shaken. They've got no choice, and so they're really open to change. So it's an area that I'm really passionate about. And so what I was doing, those who really wanted more out of their career, I would help them find their inner zone. And I'd be asking a whole heap of questions about what they're passionate about and what their interests are, and their natural talents. And I would be highlighting these things. Whenever I heard in conversation that a talent came up, I'd be highlighting it in green, for those who want to know, and also the passions and the values. And so after about 18 months of work in this area, I came across the Clifton Strength Finder. And I'd used a lot of different tools over the time, and I was a little skeptical at the start. I wanted to test it out, and what I found was all the highlighted bits that I'd worked out for people, the survey was just an exact match, and it was just amazing how it worked. So I did it, my wife did it. I was really on a mission to help people understand, the power of this tool. So now, I still do the same, but using the Strengths Finder is just a fantastic way for people to get that awareness and that insight, and to do it in such a quick manner. So the Strengths course that I took in June was fantastic. Really helped me as a coach and as a leader, because I believe we're all a talent spotter as a leader and as a coach. So it helped me become an even better talent spotter, I think. And the other things, spending a week immersing yourself in positivity is just an incredible thing to do, and seeing the gifts and talents in other people, and was fantastic. But it also accelerated my personal development and my understanding and awareness of the talents that I have, and how I can use them with more purpose every day.
Yeah, wonderful. Richard, with Inner Zone, you talk a lot about living on purpose or finding your purpose. What does it mean to you to live on purpose? And how do you help others live on their purpose?
Yeah, well, I've got some tips for coaches about that, and I'll talk about that in a minute, I think. But purpose is really, it's something that it's about your direction, where you get meaning. And people ask me, well, you turned your back on an industry when you'd been there 17 years. Are you crazy? Have you lost the plot? And after I'd written my purpose, which was really to bring talents to life in people, there was no other decision. So when you find purpose, there is nothing else. So it might seem that it was a dramatic shift in my career, but to be honest, it was the easiest decision ever made once I'd worked out my purpose. But that's the criticality of working that out, I think. And so to live on purpose means to do that intentionally every day, to intentionally use your talents, to use the passions, or immerse yourself in the passions and the things that you're naturally good at. You realise when you're not living on purpose because it's hard, it's draining, and things don't come easy. So the Strengths, I find the insight and action planning tool is a really good thing. The suggestions, there's some real simple things like schedule time to read, because that's where I get ideas from. So if I realise I'm in a little bit of a rut, I go back to that and just go, oh yeah, I haven't read for a while, I'm not getting the ideas that inspire me to help people get back to living on purpose. So it's really, what it's about is being really intentional about the way you live. And such a big part of life is our career. It's such a big investment, so it's important to be intentional about that.
Absolutely. And so with your work that you're doing with individuals in career, and then we'll jump over to the team stuff later on, but in terms of the work that you're doing with individuals to help them find that purpose and achieve career well-being, what are some of the patterns that you're finding in the Australian market with people who are stuck? I know you mentioned that word, people that are stuck. What are you seeing? What's going on?
Yeah, well, there's really two groups of people, I think. There's the people that are, as you say, stuck. We know that we see hits in our website go through the roof on a Sunday and a Monday. And, someone said to me once, it's the 60 minutes test. So on a Sunday night here in Sydney, 60 minutes comes on. And if you're thinking about the week ahead, and you're thinking, gee, I can't wait for this week, and what am I going to learn, and I'm going to grow, and I'm going to contribute, then you're in the right career. If there's elements of dread in that 60 minutes when it comes on, then you really got to do something about your career. So I know there's a lot of people out there that are stuck. So we see that in our website. We can see that the statistics that Gallup do, that people aren't really enjoying their work. But also the work that I've done in outplacement and career change, you know, being in the next room when someone gets the news of redundancy, you know, they come in and quite often they've been thinking for a long time that they needed to do something, but this is the jolt that they needed. So they've moved from thinking about change to, okay, right, now I'm ready for change. So there are really the patterns I see there are two camps. There are those who have the opportunity to change through, you know, redundancy or job loss. Sometimes it's a health scare also that prompts people. You know, maybe it's stress that's related or caused them to rethink things. But the others are really just stuck, and you know, I just think as coaches it's so important to help the many millions of people that are stuck in their career, because it's such a valuable part of our lives.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, a lot of the research we've done around well-being and its impact not only on engagement, but you know, its impact on physical health and the impact on your family and friends. You know, there's this brilliant question that we ask in our world poll every year, and it's in the last 30 days I've treated family or loved ones poorly for 3 or more consecutive days in a row. And those that are more likely to strongly agree to that question are those who are actively disengaged. People that are actively disengaged are not emotionally committed or psychologically committed to their job, and it makes them miserable, unhealthy, and it also impacts their families. So I think it's such an important job that you're doing, and you know, you're talking a lot about the work that you're doing with individuals, but how can some of the work that Inner Zone does apply to individuals who are perhaps not going through a career redesign, but they're staying within an organisation and they still are seeking to find that purpose for themselves? What kind of work do you do at the organisational level?
Yeah, so one of our programs we work with people in organisations is we call Boost. So it's a program to really help them to re-energise, find connection in what they do every day, the connection to, you know, what they can influence and impact, and how that connects to the business. So it may be someone who, you know, needs the next lift for promotion. So, you know, an area that we work with people is preparing people for leadership. We know that succession planning is a major issue for companies, so helping the next generation of leaders is really important. But also sometimes it's someone who is a high-performing, high-potential person, but now they're not performing as well as they could be. So working with those individuals in organisations that the organisation is saying, look, this person is kind of just slipping off the radar a little bit, and they need a bit of a boost and a bit of, you know, reigniting some passion and reconnecting with some things. So we really focus on connecting them with their talents and their strengths, and looking about how they've got success in the past, and being intentional about, you know, their goals at the moment and the organisational goals, so that they're really connected to that, and they go back into the workplace with a lot more energy and passion. So that's a big area we work with in organisations. The other is, as you said, that connection to well-being. And it's a great book, the Wellbeing book that Gallup put out, and you know, it's helping organisations to at that individual level help the person to find enjoyment in what they do every day, because well-being is just not going to cut it unless you address that. So it really does start with the talents that individuals have, the uniqueness. So working with organisations to do that work. So doing workshops with people across organisations to find out, you know, what they're good at. And like my story, you know, it's not uncommon that people just don't know what they're good at. They can't articulate it. As we know through the Strengths Finder, it's really because it's how you see the world. you do take it for granted. So helping people not take it for granted, helping them connect to purpose. And what we see is that teams organically start to form, because when you know your own strengths, you're looking for the strengths in others. So we find that teamwork actually organically happens. And then you can focus on the mindfulness, the work, the power of the mind, reducing stress and techniques around that, and then adding in health and well-being, the benefits of nutrition and sleep and exercise. But, really helping organisations to understand that that's a journey that really has to start with the individual and their talents. So that's some of the work we do with organisations.
Yeah, great. And so would that be the same for teams? So I know you're really, really passionate about teamwork and, particularly through the lens of a sporting background as well. What really would InnerZone do with the teams?
Yeah, with teams, we start with, identifying what teamwork is and culture is. What is a good culture? And you really get some interesting views on that. I mean, culture, this is where sport and business can learn a lot from each other. Particularly in sport, you get real-time feedback of a performance. And if everyone's not heading in the right direction, one direction as I call it, it's so critical. So in sport, you get that real-time feedback and if the culture's not right. So really helping organise teams understand what a good culture is, helping teams understand when they're at their best. So you bring out the elements of success that are, unique to that team, and definitely using some of the fantastic resources that Gallup have, starting with the individual strengths, using the cards, promotes a really good discussion, and that new awareness of the strengths of others, and the team grid, seeing where it all falls across the 4 domains of leadership, that prompts a real interesting discussion about the organisation's goals, the team's goals, and how we can use our talents to unify our culture and really achieve those goals that we want. Culture work. What is a great culture? What is the team at its best? How do we head in the one direction and utilise all our talents and strengths? That's some of the work we do.
Nice. I think it's so important what you said about that real-time feedback and the sporting analogy, because there's a lot of discussion in the Australian market at the moment, and I think globally as well, about performance appraisals and the whole system that is performance reviews, and a lot of articles being published on whether they're useful at all and whether they're effective. And so when we're having lots of discussions about this, I think it's important that real-time feedback, and to use a sporting analogy, having half time. Often with a performance review, a lot of organisations make the mistake of not having that half time or not having that time out to review where they are and how they're tracking to their goals, and you hear about it at the end, and you haven't had an opportunity necessarily to tweak your performance at half time. So yeah, I really resonate with that sporting analogy of the real-time feedback. Definitely.
Absolutely. And the simplicity that performance reviews, and I think you're right, there's a lot of research out there at the moment, and the forward-thinking organisations doing it differently, not having that 6 monthly review where people, they do dread it. How am I going to justify my performance? Whereas the new way of thinking is really, every time someone uses their talents and their strengths, to just say, thanks for your help today. I really want to point out what I saw. I saw that talent at work. And again, we keep taking talents for granted. And so when someone else comes and says, your leader and manager says, this was fantastic work because this is exactly what I saw you do and this is the impact I saw. And so transitioning that to journaling, to continually improving and sharpening that can make a very powerful organisation and a powerful team. So look, I think forward-thinking organisations are already picking up on it. And is where, talent management, I think, needs to step up and really see the benefits of this and the daily behaviour of managers and leaders and how it can impact in a positive way, because there is a better way, because the current way isn't working.
Yeah, Absolutely. And, you know, bringing it back to what we know at Gallup and our perspective on it through the lens of the Q12, which is our proprietary formula that measures engagement, but it's also a framework for managers. And one of the items in that is I've received recognition or praise in the last 7 days. So that regularity, and one thing that we know about recognition is that it needs to be individualized and specific. So back to your point about making it really relevant and calling out exactly what the behaviour was, so that you reinforce those behaviours and motivate people to continue working in that way. So important. Look, Richard, I know earlier you said you had some tips for coaches or for people that were wanting to work out what their inner zone was and find their purpose. Do you want to talk us through those?
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, it's as I said, I'm on a quest to help people around the world to particularly find a career that they love and to find meaning and purpose and success in what they do. So this is too big a stage to not take advantage of that. So, you know, I really would love to share some ideas that I think will help coaches in their own career, but also help the people that they're coaching. And just to start it, I think, you know, why am I call it a quest because I am really passionate about it. And we just, you know, I suppose that was a good lead in that there is a better way and it's not working. And, you know, share some of the observations I have at the moment, particularly over the last 5 years in coaching and the outplacement, but also in business leadership. But I do think we're at a real turning point and somewhat of a crisis. And why I say that is, you know, seeing people come through outplacement, you know, I see a lot of, you know, loss of identity that people have. You know, there are millions of roles around the world that, you know, have been unfortunately lost due to the change in business. But what I do see is that loss of identity, but also that people have, you know, this sense of not being in control and what am I going to do? And so they, you know, my example was, the reason I shared that is because I gave control over to my career. I hadn't been strategic or purposeful about it. And I think that, you know, this helplessness that people feel is really important to notice, because business isn't getting much easier. The offshoring trends, the outsourcing, that's going to continue. So, you know, I think it's really important to empower people so that they run and have the power over their own career and that they're not helpless. And the first thing they do as they go through outplacement, they say, well, you know, I should get a job. And straight away they're going on to job sites and they're perpetuating the same thing. So we really need to help people to stop and to take control of their own career. The second reason I'm so passionate about it is those statistics that you mentioned, Claire. And, you know, in Australia, 24% are engaged, but 60% not engaged, 16% actively disengaged. I mean, that means 76% of people don't like what they're doing. And, you know, that is a crisis. And, you know, that's despite the fact that a career is a 50-year investment of our precious time. It's a major impact, has a major impact on our well-being, on our relationships, on our health. So the statistics are really saying that, you know, something needs to be done. And the third reason that I'm so passionate about it is referring to the great work that Peggy Jasperson has done here in Australia around the school survey, so the Gallup student poll. And what it measures is hope, well-being and engagement in students. And from memory, about nearly 1,500 students have taken the poll around the country. And what it says is at Year 7 there's high engagement, high hope, high well-being, and as they leave in Year 12 it's really low. So not only do we have this problem in the current workplace, but, you know, the future generation are heading out into massive uncertainty. So we need to help them to take control, and I think as coaches and leaders we've got a really big responsibility to help change this picture. And to help people understand their uniqueness and have a career that they love and that they feel empowered to run. So a few ideas to help people to change this trend. So some ideas for coaches. And the first is to stop and to help people to stop. So I mentioned a mini sabbatical that I took. Change is really hard. It's hard to get the headspace when you're so busy and you're in a role. So, there's the STOP is an acronym. So Tim Galway, who wrote, if people have read it, the Inner Game series. So Inner Game, he started with the Inner Game of tennis and worked on to Inner Game of work and Inner Game of stress. And STOP says, to step back, to think, to organise your thoughts before you proceed. So to step back, think, organise your thoughts before you proceed. And so really I think the first idea is to really help people to talk about their career and think about it. And the patterns that I see are there's two ways to think about your career. The first I call outside in. Okay, and so outside in is, you start off, you leave school, someone says, you should get a job in this because you have to get a job. And usually a parent or someone who's got some influence suggests a certain career, or even worse, your mum fills out your university application form, and you start down a road, and look, you don't mind it, you're okay at it, and you say yes, and many years just seem to evaporate. But there's outside in is really, you do have these lingering thoughts about, is this really me? Is this all there is? Is there something else out there for me? And have I realised my true potential? So they're the lingering questions, and the language of outside in is that I should, I have to, I've got to go to work, and that language is really going to suggest that you're outside in. And really the motivator there with outside in thinking is it's extrinsic motivation, meaning that you're there for a paycheck or a bonus. And it's short-term motivation because you focus on that short-term bonus. When you get it, you put it in your pocket and you're looking for something else to inspire you, to motivate you. So that's outside in way of thinking. The other way of thinking is inside out. So the language is different. So it's about things that I enjoy. So it's starting with, what do I actually enjoy doing? What are my talents? What are the things that I'm good at? The activities you lose yourself in. So that's totally different. And when you use those, the language is, this is me. There is nothing else. And, I am realising my potential, but also there's this feeling of my potential's expanding because I'm getting better and better, because I'm more intentional about my talents. So, that's intrinsic motivation. It's different to extrinsic. You're doing it for its own purpose. You're getting massive enjoyment, and it's long-term and it's sustainable. So, they're the two ways of thinking. So helping people to stop and think about where are you actually at in your career is so important, and getting people to articulate it. And that's a way of thinking that can help people to work out, am I outside in my thinking, or am I inside out? And the next thing that people often do is say, well, what job should I do next? And I actually say that that's the wrong question to ask. The right question is, how am I built? How am I built? And not what should I do next, but actually how am I built? Okay, and so helping people to understand that is the next point. So that's the first thing, is to really help people to stop and where are they at in their career. The second idea that I'd like to share is to study what I call their inner zone moments. Okay, so they're moments where you lose yourself, activities that you actually love doing, where you use your natural strengths, and you know that because it's almost effortless, that it is enjoyable, and you get this energy from doing what you love and using your natural strengths. Quite often when you're experiencing the inner zone, you surprise yourself at what you achieve, and so there is that element of performance, like on a sporting field, and that's where I got the term from, because your performance through a season can be average, and then you have this breakthrough performance. And I really started to say, well, how did that happen? And then I discovered flow psychology. I didn't know it existed, but it is out there. And when you surprise yourself with those moments, you are performing at your best. And the other thing that happens when you're with these inner zone moments is what the Russian psych Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, don't ask me to spell it, but what he said is it's autotelic. which means you're doing it for its own purpose. So there's this intense enjoyment. You're using what you've been given in terms of natural strengths, and you don't need any other form of motivation. It is in itself really motivating and enjoyable. So these moments, they're not a fluke. If you actually study a person's inner zone moments, they happen for a reason. It's where everything clicks, everything comes together, and what it highlights is what someone's potential actually is. And it gives them the confidence to say, well, if that's my potential, that's what I'm capable of, I can go out there. And to actually, it's the key to really starting to unpack purpose. So that's number 2, study inner zone moments. And number 3 is to define a purpose and to live on purpose. So, as you said, Claire, to ask the questions that are really important, and write a sentence. And a guide to a sentence is, what am I here for? To do something, in something, to achieve something, for whom? And it doesn't have to be rocket science, but starting to write these sentences about, when I experience my inner zone, I'm doing a purpose, and writing what that sentence might be, and write it a number of times, and continue to have a look at that and refine it. I started with almost a paragraph, but it was enough to head me into a direction. And then what happens is start being intentional about that, intentional about using your talents. I highly recommend people start journaling and saying, look, today here is a talent or a strength I use, and here was the impact. So people become much more intentional, not only about where they've made an impact, but intentional about what I call feeding your talents. So that passion and interest, it's no fluke that we look at certain articles and they fascinate us. So you're feeding your talents. So to do that intentionally every day, and to be intentional about purpose. And there's a quick story that I'd like to share, because some people say, well, life purpose, isn't that a bit extreme? A bit of a pipe dream for me. Well, one of the this particular person, I learned an incredible amount of when I was in that position of managing director, and that was the building's cleaner. And this cleaner seemed like the only other person in the building at 5:30 a.m. when I was at my desk, preparing for the day ahead. And he used to come up to my floor and buy me coffee. And I'd say, you really astound me. You're the most passionate, energetic, happy person in the whole building. What's the secret of your success? And he said, look, this to me, this building, and this is a guy who cleans toilets on every single floor. That's the main part of his role. And he said, look, this is a home away from home for thousands of people. I want to make this a home away from home. And that's what drives me every day. That's what excites me. He was revealing his purpose. And, for him to reveal that purpose, it isn't a pipe dream. And I learnt so much from him. He's the happiest, most intentional person in his daily practice. So if he can do it and be so intentional, we all can do it. So the 3 ideas again, to stop. Where are people at with their career? Study their inner zone moments and define purpose and live on purpose. They're the 3 things that are so important, because a career is precious. As I said, it's 50 years of our time. It's such a major contributor to our life well-being, our relationships, our health, our fitness, all things. And as coaches and leaders, we want to help people not to do a job, but to discover their unique strengths and discover a purpose. And once that happens, people never look back. So it's really rewarding what we're doing, and I hope that some of those ideas help coaches and people considering a strengths journey out there.
Yeah, I think they're really great ideas to share with everyone, and even just, the idea of studying your inner zone moments and journaling every day. I think that's something that really helps you reflect and appreciate on your strengths as well. There's so much alignment between having that purpose and living your strengths. You know, there's so much synergy there. So in the work that you do, and thank you for sharing that story as well about the cleaner and the man that you learned a lot about purpose and energy from. But in the work that you've done around strengths, have you got a story to share about where you've maybe seen that discovery of somebody's strengths or somebody finding their inner zone moment really having an impact? I know you've shared your own personal journey. Have you got another story that you could share with us as well?
Yeah, look, there's a few, and you know, recently I ran a week-long program where Inner Zone ran a week-long program, and what we did was we got 6 people from real diverse backgrounds: a 19-year-old uni student, a 24-year-old engaged couple, and a mum, 41-year-old mum, and also 2 guys, one who's 47 and another who's a 55-year-old entrepreneur. And what we did was we went through the strengths journey, really name it, aim it, and claim it, amongst other things, which was focused on their well-being and helping them to turn around elements of their lives that they wanted to turn around. And you know, really through the workshops that we did around their natural talents, literally people were changing in front of us. You know, there was particularly around the top 5, but also the discovery using the cards and saying, oh, you know, that's why I do this sort of thing, or that's how I made an impact. And people were smiling and laughing. And you know, one of the moments that really stood out was when we asked people to actually give a testimony about their chosen talent, the one that they love using the most. And because this was a residential, people after a couple of days had really bonded very quickly, and there was this conversation going between everyone about, oh yeah, I've seen you use that. It's a real gift that you have. From the moment I met you, this was happening. So the affirmation of these talents was really powerful, and I just stood back, and the other team facilitators, Robin, Corinne, and Graham, and we just watched this magic happen. And you know, for people, it was just, you know, now I get it. That's the sort of language they were using, and how quickly people got to their purpose in that week was just mind blowing. The 24-year-old engaged couple were saying things like, you know, I thought I knew him or her, but now I really understand it. And how we can complement as a couple in our future just makes us so excited. And you know, I understand that person's weaknesses now and how we can work around those. But living a life together, you know, it was really helping them shape their future. So you know, there was 6 stories in that week that you know, are really continuing to unfold, and they've found their passion and their purpose, which has been you know, really fantastic and special.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you for sharing that as well. That sounds like a great program. You know, as you're speaking through, I'm thinking how wonderful this is for people throughout any stage of their career, but how amazing it would be to have the opportunity to go through this process even before you get to designing your career, you know, in those in the school system, and finding out your strengths and studying your inner zone moments, and then designing your career based on your purpose, because there are so many people who are close to burnout now, and you know, there's a big trend towards trying to slow down and move away from being so fast. And you know, there's such a work-life integration now as well. So all of these concepts are so important to everybody in society.
Absolutely. And you know, it's a question that I put out there to, why are people waiting? You know, if there's so many, you know, there's millions of people that are stuck. You know, it's a question that I'm always asking, and our team are always asking, why are they waiting? How can we get to them to help them more? And you know, going into schools is one way we can go to the source and really help people at an early age find out how they're unique and why they're unique. And a recent school program we ran, the majority of the feedback was I'm so much more confident in myself, and because I now understand myself. So that confidence at a young age, think of the problems that we can solve around, anxiety, stress that we're hearing about at a young age, bullying, all this stuff. It's very special and meaningful work.
Absolutely. Amazing, and love all the ideas that you're sharing, and I hope they're going to be useful for people listening. How would people get in touch with you, Richard, if they wanted to find out more about the work that you're doing or share some ideas?
Yeah, well, I'm on LinkedIn, obviously, Richard Burton on LinkedIn. If you're doing a Google search, I'm not Richard Burton the actor, just to be, to realise that. But innerzone.com.au, innerzone.com.au is really the main area. People can email us, get in touch with us, and see the programs we offer. So I'd love to, hear from coaches and people out there with their own insights, and even around this, why do people stay stuck? I think it's a global conversation we should be having. So I'd really welcome that.
Excellent.
Richard, can I jump in real quick, Claire? Because JB had a question, I think a personal question for you, Richard, about your connectedness and ideation. How do those work together for you?
Yes.
In what you're doing?
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Great question. Look, connectedness I use with ideation. Magic to me is a coffee and a whiteboard. So really, I get into work early, and we have literally got 6 whiteboards around the office. So making connections to, how can we help more people and generate ideas? There's no shortage of ideas that come my way, and that's something that really energizes, motivates me. So I'm connecting the patterns and trends that I see, connecting conversations or talent management sessions that I'm having, and then coming up with more and more ideas that can accelerate someone's journey or help someone. So I think connecting the patterns to ideas that help people is the way I best to answer that, Jim. But I actually have a physical reaction to, I have to stand up and walk around. I get so excited about using the whiteboard and coming up with ideas. What I've had to do is find some really talented people that aren't just ideas people that can actually execute. And that's been a big shift in getting Innerzone to where we have it now, and that is getting people to complement my strengths. So achievers and activators, arrangers who are just brilliant in helping me arrange these ideas and execute them. And I've been fortunate to find these talented people to help me.
Arranger ideation works very similar. I'm a friend to whiteboards, and I have ideation 7, arranger 1, and so I like to stand up in front of whiteboards with our interns, with our college and high school interns. My favorite thing to do in the morning is come in, and the stand up is a whiteboarding exercise. So we just start whiteboarding from the very beginning. What do we want to do here? And I see their eyes begin to roll sometimes because I think, oh, here comes the sermon. But it's one of those things that, when you talk about that, super important to be able to get those ideas on the board and get them done. I wanted to go back real quick to a statement you made about our children. And on last Friday, we did a Call to Coach with Brandon Bastide. He is one of Gallup's foremost experts in the area of education. One of the things I want to challenge you on, or to think about, or maybe you've thought about this already, he brought up the idea of changing our children's experience through PTO or through parent organizations, with parents understanding their strengths and then having their children, right? Imagine if we did strengths-based parenting in those junior high, in the United States, it would be junior high and high school, right? 7 through 12 here in the United States. What if we did strength-based parenting and those kids really understood who they were through those grades? Those are such critical grades. Have you thought about approach? We often try to approach this from the schools, and I don't know about Australia, but in the United States, our schools are locked in, right? They take so long to move on anything. Yet, if we could get the parents, we could fix this in one generation. So have you guys thought about going after the parents?
Look, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, and schools are quite tight because the curriculum is quite tight. But I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's really about a strengths-based family, isn't it? And the parents getting this. So we're coming at it from all different angles, I think, because people we see in our talent management programs or coaching programs, it's about, a lot of them are parents. So they go home and they get their partner to do it, and they actually understand that their kids can do it as well. So it's coming from the school's angle, but also from the people in the workplace and having a career that they love, so that we actually do have these strengths-based families. And after that week-long program, the Reset 360 that we had, that was really powerful because Rachel, the very talented mum who's looking for a purpose, and she's found that again. She went back, told her husband did it, he loved it. Her kids are going to a school called Arden, which is where we're sending our kids as well. They're piloting this in their school, so their kids have their strengths. So now they are the strengths-based family, and they're really, it changes their daily behaviour. And the reason I agree with you so wholeheartedly, Jim, is that the biggest influencer on your career decisions when you finish year 12 in Australia is your parents. And that's a real critical or pivotal discussion that parents have, and a great opportunity for them to say, what are your natural strengths, and follow that, and follow passion in your choice of career. Don't just hand it over to your mum to fill out your form. Have the discussion and really work out what this is, and it's an incredibly powerful thing. So parents are just they have a big opportunity to shape the future. Yeah. So I couldn't agree with you more, Jim. And
yeah, I'd love to see some of our coaches go after this family camp. We do it at Gallup on the riverfront in Omaha. We do it for our own employees once a year, but I think that is a week-long family camp where we get the parents and we get the kids together, and it could be a couple days, right? I mean, you could do it from a day or two to a full week, make it a full experience, and really help those parents. We have a new book coming, we'll have strength-based parenting coming out next year, first quarter next year, but that's not enough. I mean, we can write books, but we got to have people executing them out there. So that's one of those things, I think, as we think about education. You guys, you coaches, are in the perfect position to be able to take over the family and be able to influence the kids through the family. Like I said, I think in a year or two, we can have an amazing amount of influence that we couldn't do in a decade of education. So,
absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And maybe that's your ticket to Sydney, Jim, is to lead the first family camp.
I'll leave that for a chapter in my book called Amplify. So Oscar will appreciate that reference in there as he's pestering me to write that book. But we will get that in. Claire, as we kind of bring this in for landing, any final thoughts?
No, look, it's just been an absolute privilege to have Richard sharing some of the great work that he's doing here with everybody, and really generous of you, Richard, to share your tactics and your tips and your personal journey as well. So thank you so much. You've been absolutely wonderful to hear from today, and honoured to have you as part of our coaching alumni here in Australia, and looking forward to seeing how Inner Zone really has an impact in organisations across Australia.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Jim. And look, it's been a real honour and a privilege, and good luck to everyone on their strengths journey out there.
You bet. Thank you. Richard, thanks again. We'll remind everyone that's Inner Zone, INNER. I think we heard, some of us here heard In the Zone. That's a really famous group here in the United States. When you think about In the Zone, that is Inner, INNERZONE, if you want to look that up. And I'll put a note in the chat. We'll put that in the show notes as well if you want to head out to coaching.gallup.com to get access to that as well. Remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strengths Center. That's just GallupStrengthsCenter.com. Send us your questions or comments in an email. You can send those to coaching@gallup.com. You can also catch the recorded audio and video of this program, as well as the past ones, as well as the links to our Facebook page, Facebook group and YouTube pages, all at coaching.gallup.com. If you have an idea for a blog post, we are accepting those as well. And Richard, if you'd like to write one of those up for us, it'll have to run the gauntlet just like everyone else. But we would love to have you send us an email, coaching@gallup.com, and put guest blogger in the subject line, and our editors will review that as well. We now have some 30 global meetups, I think even a little bit more than that. We'd like to get to 100 by the end of the year. It's going to take a while. It's going to take you starting one of those in your city. So if you haven't thought about that, we have a meetup page on the coaches blog, coaching.gallup.com. Check the meetup tab, and You can see if there's one in your city. If there is, you should be attending it, right? If there isn't, you should be starting one. And I'm here to help you get that done if you want to get it done. Send me an email, jim_collison@gallup.com, and I will help you get that started as well. Claire, do we have any courses that you want to highlight just before we go that are coming up in Asia there that folks might want to take advantage of?
Yes, thank you. We just finished up one of our Accelerated Strengths Coach programs the week before last here in Sydney. Our next Sydney course is in December, the second week of December, and we do have a program coming along in Auckland next month. So the 7th to the 11th of Auckland, or of October, the second week of October in Auckland. Yeah.
So Dean wants me to take an accelerated course and get certified. That would be a great one to go to, I would think, for me.
I think so. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure that won't happen. But we want to thank everyone for joining us today.
Worth a try.
And it's always worth a try. If you enjoyed this, please share it. And we look forward to the next Call to Coach. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.